Hello again, Struck Club. Today I will be bringing you my What the Struck is the Iron Oath video, my impressions, early access impressions, not a final review. I mean, we wouldn't go in a restaurant and give our review of the food there if the food is not cooked. Well, we won't go into the kitchen and eat the chicken while it's getting cooked. And the same way, I believe early access games should not be reviewed. But impressions are fine in my opinion. So those are my impressions. It's a game still in development, incomplete, and hopefully this helps you figure out whether it's worth getting the game now or whether it's better to wait for the launch, or maybe some people it's just not gonna be their game regardless whether it's a launched or not game. Buckle up, I hope you enjoyed, and let's go. So what is the story of the Iron Oath about? Well, we are the head of a company that could be used for various things. People could hire us to go and help them fight their enemies, void spawn for example, or monsters, beasts, and so on, or they could hire us to escort them. So there's all those different tasks a mercenary company can take. And at the beginning of the game, without spoiling exactly what happens, there is some sort of betrayal. And our main quest, without spoiling again too much, is all about following the aftermath and trying to figure out the reason for that betrayal and so on. But at the same time, there is looming threats for the whole continent. All the kingdoms in the continent are threatened by a dragon. A kind of Draculich or whatever, some sort of green fire spewing dragon, and I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, as we travel through kingdoms, trading and doing missions for different cities and hunting down the people who betrayed us and so on, little bit by bit the main story unravels, but keep in mind the main story is not yet completed. And probably 6 to 10 hours, depending on how much you rush the main story, is what it would take you to finish it. And after that, it's pretty much sandbox mode. Now, what I want to show you is the world map. So, as you see, there are various kingdoms. Each of them having separate regions and borders and so on. And some of them sometimes are at war, later on they are not. So typical Game of Thrones situation. Different houses of nobles owning different regions and the castles and towns in those regions. And you can go visit them, take quests from them, and trade between cities. And there's constant events, so you can see what's happening in certain zones, whether the roads are active with trade, meaning there's probably going to be good prices there, but you won't make much money by selling because they would have plenty of stuff. Whether there's bandits, whether the roads have been cleared of bandits, and it means you won't get ambushed by any on the way, whether there's beasts and so on. There's all sorts of things that could happen, so keep that in mind. The world is not that big, but it's big enough for now for an early access game. Obviously, they've got some unplanned zones over here that probably will come before the game launches. This seems like probably another kingdom or two would be there. And there's room for growing, but it's decently big for now. And maybe this one would also end up being something we can travel to once they add sea traveling. And they will be adding during early access seafaring, so there will be some lands to visit, some places to visit in the sea as well. There are various types of combat, but it's always using the same system. You can fight in the overworld, which is a single fight, and when the fight is done, you're free to go wherever you want. Or there's the expedition fighting, which is slightly different, but it's still the same type of fight, the same base system. It's just that you have supplies that last you through the whole expedition. So before the fight or before the expedition, you would be able to pick who you want to go into the fight. And then you venture. This is the overworld fighting, that's how it works. You don't need to worry about supplies and stuff when fighting in the overworld. And once the fight has started, It's got different phases. First of all is the placement phase, but if you got ambushed, you won't get to choose the position of your members, of your team members. If you have ambushed the enemy, would be able to move first, things like that. So positioning can be nice because see different terrain does different things. This one will lower your accuracy but increases evasion. So putting someone with high evasion there that you don't expect to hit like a buffer would be nice. You can cover behind things if you want to. So you can do something like that if you feel like it. And put this guy in cover, and then they won't be able to hit him with ranged attacks unless they're nearby, and that would mean they could get either 100% so they won't be able to be hit, or 50% damage reduction depending on their cover. Once you start the action phase, everyone does their rounds. I'll start by using this as a buff, so it buffs, because the way I've leveled up this ability, it increases the evasion, defense and power of this character, but it also gives me power to adjacent allies. The Super Saiyan buff. And see, there's a speed stat, and that speed stat is decided by gear and class, and it determines who moves first. Who has the first how should I turn? Whose turn comes first? That's what is decided. See, this one has 3 speed, 3 speed. Then we have 2 speed here. This one is with 6 speed, and this one is with 0 speed. You can see this one was first because he had 7 speed, so he was much faster than the others. And now it's time for the mage because he has 3. And again, you can choose to do some AoE skills with randomness. There's all sorts of abilities, but what I'll do first is I'll move it. And the worst thing about the game is they made it that you can't move after hitting. Many other tactical RPGs make it so that after you've hit an enemy you can move. But here, once you do the hit, you can no longer move, so you're kind of stuck to doing move first if you feel like moving, hit later, which is not that great. There's also attacks of opportunity. I'm gonna show you. If I move here, that hero, he will get attacked and trigger an attack of opportunity. I'll do it though. I'll do it just so I can show you. See how it got attacked. And overall, the combat is nice. You can increase the combat speed, but I don't see any increases when I do it, so I'm not sure whether they're really whether it really works. There are different skills that you would not do right away, and you would have to channel. Once you switch such a skill on, you would be able to see certain things. You would be able to see that. It shows you a marker on here where you'll be able to tell when that channel will be done. I'll show you in a moment about that. This one was channeling an ability, you see it killed it, and this one was channeling ability on the same hero, and now that enemy is done, this ability would not actually do anything because see, the enemy was already killed. So now, after the enemy is done, when it's my turn again, I'll show you what I'm talking about when explaining about the channeled abilities. So this is a channel ability, and you see this blue thing here. That means if I cast that ability, the ability will channel until this guy is done with his turn. So that's how this will work. Obviously, I'm not gonna do it now. I'm gonna do something else just to show you a different type of skill. This random hitting skill. And as I said, there is healing. So let's show you what the healing looks like. There's also other types of support skills, not just the healing. But overall, the combat is fine. The combat is fun. I love that system. I think it's nice, but many people would find it very difficult unless they lower the difficulty and play on a custom settings playthrough. So I think they should probably make the regular intended difficulty to be a little less difficult, and then let the tryhards enjoy the game on the harder difficulties. There's 2 more difficulties if I'm not mistaken after the normal one. So I think it would be nice if they were to consider reducing the difficulty so that some of us filthy casuals can enjoy the game as well on the base difficulty, and then the other ones could be for the tryhards. And once you finish the fight, this is what happens. You can pick up some random wood and whatever. And since this is not an expedition, this random wood gets converted into coins. In an expedition, this conversion happens at the very end of the expedition. Now let's talk about the quests and missions. I did tell you what the main quest is. But there will be bounties. For now there are no bounties, but there are all sorts of things you can take as a contract. And all of that is kept a record of in your journal. So when you visit a city, there will be different contracts. Contracts from some villagers, farmers, etc., merchants, or contracts from the nobles themselves. And those contracts would send you on an expedition mission. More about those later. And they will reward you gold coins, and they will reward you renown. So there is renown and reputation. You also get some reputation for the specific town and city, and renown in general, which gives you renown levels, which lets you level up your company based on that renown level. And as you do that, you earn company perks, which is this cross-like thingy, and with the company perks you level up your company in various ways. You spend them under general expeditions and alchemy to improve that company. So it's a decent system, it works well, but the one main thing I dislike about it is how little rewards we get for the time it's spent for missions that have 3 or more skulls. So this is 4 skulls, this is 5 skulls, and this is again another 5 skulls. So missions I've noticed that are 1 skull and normally escort missions pretty quick. Or just fetch missions, so you go from one city to another and sometimes back to the first one, and they kind of reward you less than the 3, 4, 5 skulls, but take much less time to do, and are more viable as a way of income. Whereas if you go to those missions, you will see in a moment in the next segment what happens. Expeditions are kind of how this game is handling the big quests, the long quests. It could be main missions, it could be side missions, but you will have to do expeditions every now and then. And this is one of the worst things of the game. It's not rewarding your time spent in an expedition sufficiently. Because you can do a quest that will take you 3, 4, 5 times less time to complete and give you maybe 20% less or 30-40% less rewards, which is much more feasible than doing the expeditions. And I think expeditions start from 3 skulls and go all the way to 5. I'm not sure if there are 6 skulls, but I've done 3, 4 and 5 skull expeditions. I can't remember if I did any easier ones before, maybe during the tutorials or whatever. And the expedition is something different. It will first ask you to select your team members, and after you select that, you select provisions. Eventually you will upgrade your inventory so you can get more provisions and you can get better types of provisions, but you have to buy certain things like potions and morale, increasing alcohol and stuff like that, haste elixirs, stimulants, bandages, tools, and all sorts of other things. There's even critical elixir, which increases the crit chance by 25%, defense elixir, and so on. Even absinthe, which restores more morale. And there are perks that will let you restore the money up to X% of the cost of an item if it hasn't been used. And once you're done with that, you venture forth and it starts a tile-based Darkest Dungeon style kind of mission. You can scout ahead, which uses something called time modifier. Not time. It uses time, and once you reach X time, it gives you a time modifier, which is kind of like a negative or positive, or negative and positive at the same time effect that affects your expedition. And there will be certain events that will give you choice whether you investigate and use 2 time, or whether you forget it, keep moving. And yeah, the more modifiers you get, the more unreasonable it might become. Sometimes you get lucky and it's not bad. Eventually you will find fights, and when you fight, obviously you have to do certain things. You can also camp. Camping is pretty nice. I'll show you after this fight what camping is. I'll actually skip that fight and then show you the camping after that. But as you can see, the fight here is no different than the fighting in the overworld, except in here you have to heal up after the fight, and you have limited amount of supplies and things like those. And now, as you can see, at the end of a fight during an expedition, you will get some items, some drops. Sometimes they could give you potions, bandages, some useful things. And sometimes they would just give you some materials, and you also get experience. Those materials you can end up selling. What's worth keeping in mind is that your abilities have charges. This was the first modifier we got reaching that time. Abilities have charges, and those charges you can replenish with stimulants. But they are limited, and until the expedition is done, you're stuck with those charges. And again, if you want to replenish them, you have to use stimulants, which some of you might not feel like it. Again, you have limited amount of things you can get. Other ways to replenish charges of abilities is by camping. You can increase the amount of incense points remaining, and you have, right now I've got 20 incense points, and I can burn total of 20 worth of incense. If I want to recharge my abilities, I can get this with primary and secondary effect. And then I can maybe restore ability charges with this one here. Where was it? There was one more thing. This one has a secondary 1 ability charge, so I can get 4 ability charges, 2 ability charges, and another 1. This leaves me with 7 left incense, which means I can't learn this one for XP, but I can maybe get some healing with this one. And now we've got 2 left. Maybe I can even do that, and we can begin camping. And the camping, once it's done, we take all the benefits from it. Pretty interesting system, and you can unlock more types of incense things from the camp. I'm gonna show you it just a moment, from the company upgrade system. Although I can't show it right now. I think during the segment where I talk about that, you would be able to see those in detail. Apart from that, this expedition will keep going and going and going, and eventually you will be able to reach your main objective, which would look like that. Sometimes there will be a mission where you have to gather some materials like dark iron ore, which means you have to reach 3 objectives, 3 different veins for ore. In the end, there will be a boss fight in most cases. And after that boss fight, the game will let you, do you want to stay and explore, or do you want to just leave? There are all sorts of things like blocked paths, like secrets, hazards, NPCs, wood, and so on. And yeah, the expedition can keep going and going. Sometimes they're just too boring, too long, and not rewarding enough for the time it takes to clear them. So I hope they rework it, and I hope they make it less punishing to casual players. At least on the basic difficulty, because right now it's pretty much for tryhards who wanna min-max everything, who wanna use abilities, the right abilities at the right moment, in the right way, in the right hex of the field, and that's just too many things you have to think about to enjoy the game. And the best thing right now one can do to enjoy the game is to lower the difficulty if they're not meta min-max player who only cares about the top 1% ways of playing a game. There are various different classes. There's a Pyrolancer, there's Guardian, Stormcaller, Pugilist, Valkyrie, Huntress. Those are the classes I've been able to find so far. So not that many, but still there are some of those. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different classes, with more coming eventually. One will come soon, and then on launch I think they will add some more as well before launch. And the Pyrolancer, as you can guess, is spear type of class with fire abilities. I won't go into detail as much, but each ability again has its own upgrades. Again, since it's early access, we can only go tier 1 and 2, we can go tier 3 and 4 upgrades. And you can see the different abilities and their upgrades. And there is also respect, but the respect kind of costs a lot, 850 coins, and I have no idea why there's a cost in the first place. I think there shouldn't be a cost for respecting. Good games don't make you grind to respect. They know that people make mistakes and they don't punish you for those mistakes. But yeah, you can respect the abilities. I'm not sure if the price will always be the same, 850, but each hero has that. The Guardian, as you can see, is kind of like a paladin healer slash tank. And then you have again the Stormcaller, as you can guess, mage caster with lightning stuff. The Pugilist is a monk kind of close range martial arts character who has some team buffs and self buffs and stuff. The Valkyrie is a tank with taunting abilities and some team buffs, no healing, unlike the Guardian. She has some damage as well. The Huntress, ranged DPS, as you can see, with self buffs, enemy debuffs, and things like that. And that pretty much is all of those classes. And each of those classes, again, wherever you get to hire a mercenary, you would go to the marketplace, to the inn. You would go to the inn, and under recruit you would be able to see them, and you can see their stats and abilities. And each of those heroes will have different traits. So you would see, okay, would this trait fit that character? For example, Fortitude, increased defense by 10, really does fit a Guardian character. Resist knockback while guarding, obviously good for a Guardian. Open-minded, okay, that affects dialogues and stuff. Cautious, again, there's all sorts of different traits to consider. So you would see that sometimes those traits would complement your hero, sometimes they won't as much. They have their own biography, and what you can do is you can customize a character. So you can do things like that. Pronounce the base of the guy, the background, and all sorts of bunch of things, tattoos and so on. You can even customize how they look on the battlefield. This is their portrait, this is their battlefield, and you can change the name. You can also give them bonuses for the contract, and there's also some sort of loyalty system and a system that tells you how well rested they are. Each hero has 4 slots: artifact, weapon, armor, and offhand. This one is a two-handed weapon, but for whatever reason it doesn't seem to take the offhand slot like some other two-handed weapons. You can see there's different rarities of items and gear, and if we go to the marketplace you can probably see it a little better. There's common items, and after common comes rare, and after rare comes epic, and after that comes pristine, and after that is a masterwork. But it's kind of disappointing because pristine and masterwork don't do anything special. They don't have any special affixes, special triggers, procs, skills, abilities, whatever. They don't have special bonuses. They just have a little bit more armor or damage and a little bit more stats from the base stats. which would be evasion, move, and speed for armor, and for weapons it would be accuracy, crit chance, and crit damage. And that's very boring. Oh, and for shield it's defense, evasion, movement, and speed. Again, that's super boring, and I hope they expand upon it and make those pristine and masterwork items have some special abilities attached to them. Who knows? There's many ways to grow that as a system. And as you can see, as I showed you, each hero has those 4 slots. I don't think there's artifacts in the game yet. And some things like this will be clearly two-handed weapons. While this one as well, while others you would be able to use with a shield, like the polearm on the Valkyrie you can use with the shield, but the polearm on Pyro Lancer, for whatever reason, you cannot use with a shield. It's used as a two-handed weapon, but it doesn't show up as a two-handed weapon. So yeah, it's an okay wood system, but it could use some tweaks here and there, because right now it's pretty boring and basic, and I don't think it fits a game like that. I think some changes to the wood system are much needed here. But at least it's better than nothing, so we gotta be happy about that, right? There's also the durability system, so eventually you would have to buy new items to replace the old ones. Even if you have a masterwork, eventually that masterwork will break. There is nothing you can do about it. You cannot fix it and repair it, which is super sad. They should have at least, if they're gonna add a durability system, they should have at least added a way to repair items. Each time your hero levels up until I think level 10 is when the last time is they get abilities, attributes. The attributes they can invest into will be limited. You have a lot of attributes here, but you can't invest into all of those. You can invest into physique, finesse, toughness, conviction, insight, mind, and perception. Oh no, actually not perception. So physique, finesse, toughness, conviction, insight, and mind. Those are the abilities you can invest into. And physique gives you crit damage, health, and evasion. For some heroes it will be main attribute, for others not. And when it is a main attribute for a hero, that means it increases their power. You can see for this one, physique is not the main attribute. This one's main attributes are conviction and insight, and that will increase their power, which is the damage. Finesse, on the other hand, is accuracy, crit chance, evasion. Toughness is HP and defense. Conviction is defense and morale. Insight is crit damage and perception. Mind is crit chance and accuracy. So you have to decide how you want to focus your stats, because there are no respects. And if you make a mistake, you have to get a new mercenary of the same class and re-level, then, which could be a pain just for a single mistake to have to undo that. As you can see, all those things would give you certain things like power, crit chance, crit damage. There's the formula here. This one is, for example, finesse plus mind together, divided by 4. This one is physique plus insight plus 25. That's how much crit damage you have. The accuracy is finesse plus mind plus 50. So those are the formulas. I like that they're open with the formulas. This is nice. And yeah, overall, it's a good system. I just wish there was a way to respec. Now let's talk about the trading. First of all, you have items. Obviously, you can buy items. You can also sell items, but the lower the durability of an item, the less of a price. And sometimes they would be able to buy, and they would be willing to buy an item for higher than the purchase price, depending on the state the city is in. But the biggest problem I've noticed in this game is the merchants. They are piss broke. They're super broke, the merchants in the cities. And if you want to make money from trading, those merchants shouldn't be broke, because you're relying on selling in cities when they buy for over the average price, and you rely on buying when they sell for under the average price. But it seems like other than trading with you, the merchants don't do any other type of trading, and their funds are fixed. So the way you've left a city, You come back later to that city hasn't gotten any more funds, and if the city has like 1,000 and you're trying to sell a crystal for 3,000, they won't have enough to buy it off of you unless you buy some stuff from them. And I think they need to figure out a system to make those cities, merchants, increase their funds, whether it's caravans that travel from city to city for the merchant companies in those cities that bring them funds and stuff like that. They need to figure out a way to do that, because in the end it ends up becoming limited funds, and those funds keep draining if you do your trading the right way. For example, as you can see, this item, it won't be worth selling it because it's selling for like half the average price. Sometimes you would be able to sell for triple the average price. So you buy this for average price 30, and you buy it, let's say, for the average price from a place. Like here, it buys for 31 even though it's 30. And then in another town, they might be willing to buy it for 60 or even 90 or like 45, depending on the state of the city. The same goes for a crystal. Average price of 1,000, you might be able to buy it for 1,050, 1,100. And then you might end up selling it for 2,000 or 2,000 something or 3,000 or even 3,300, which is pretty solid. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. There will be certain things like those that you would be able to get from quests, but overall you can just sell and make money by selling things like that. And you need money to keep your company salaries satiated. So you see, I sold some stuff, I made some coins, and now my money is increasing, but it's still not enough to get my salary because I'm at such a point in the game right now. But yeah, overall the trading is good because once you're done, you can leave the city and you can go and visit another city and trade with the people in that city. Again, I'm not gonna give the game a score or whatever. It's not a full game, so it's not reviewing the game, but hopefully listing the pros and cons, at least from my perspective, gives you an idea whether this game is worth your time and money right now, or maybe better to wait for the launched product. The game has a beautiful dark fantasy world. I really enjoy the art style, the pixel art, the contrast between certain things, and the design of the creatures. An interesting main questline, although currently pretty incomplete and short, it still exists, at least some parts of it. Turn-based combat with enough mechanics. You have blocking, you have evasion, you have crit strike, chance and damage. You have AoE spells in a straight line, in an arc, in like a circle, and there's all sorts of things. There are buffs, debuffs, there's blinds, there's accuracy, there's hazards you and your enemies can put on the ground. There's also hazards that naturally form. There's grass and so on, mud. Pretty much a ton of things that affect the combat. Beautiful visual effects, sound effects, and soundtrack. Multiple gear rarities, multiple hero classes, each with their own different ability skill trees. Yeah, the hero ability system a plus for me. The attribute system is a plus. The trading system is nice as well. There's hero customization option, which is pretty nice, being able to customize what your units look like. Unlimited side missions, another good thing. And by side missions, I mean those contracts you can take from towns. Those are unlimited. A reputation and faction system that decides which house you side with. Not side with, but based on completing missions for certain noble houses and certain towns, you get reputation with that house and town, and that affects the prices in that town as well, and maybe the missions that house would give you. So far I haven't reached past neutral for a house, but I've reached great allies with all towns, or at least all that I visited. There is a company upgrade system. I really like the company upgrade system. You have general, upgrades like roster capacity, reducing the Sauri you play, loyalty increases, movement speed in the overworld, recovery, respite, forging, multitasking, recruiting. And there's expedition related stuff like extended camp and discount on provisions, being able to be reimbursed for the provisions, scouting distance, ambush prevention, satchel size, and so on. And then there's alchemy, which is pretty much new types of incense to burn, and that's pretty nice, having those interesting types of incense. I didn't invest much into alchemy during my playthrough, but it's pretty nice to have those. What else do we have? Yeah, the game has a roadmap with multiple updates planned during early access ahead of the game's launch. So if they deliver and if the game ends up becoming as good as I hope it will be, that will be a good thing for it. And you also have sandbox style gameplay after the main quest is finished. Now on to the negatives, to the cons. There's whacking gear diversity. Very basic and whacking gear diversity. Sure, you have masterwork and pristine items, but they are just items with slightly more stats than the previous rarities, and that's it. There's nothing unique or legendary about the masterwork and pristine. Or maybe after masterwork, that's when legendary and unique items come, but I haven't seen anything after masterwork throughout my playthrough so far. The game could use quality of life in many places. If I were to start listing, maybe we won't have enough time. But in general, I think every side of the game could use some tweaks here and there. Expeditions missions are some of the places where they really need to rework completely, or not majorly at least, the way this is handled, because they end up becoming extremely long and boring and not rewarding for that time. The city merchants also don't seem to get much funds, as I mentioned, and are nearly broke, and in the end it's hard to make profit from trading if the merchants are not stocked in terms of coins and if they can't buy my goods. That's kind of how it is. I also can't find a way to respec my attributes. And speaking of respecting abilities is too expensive. In fact, why put the cost for that in the first place at all? I don't see a reason to put the cost on that. It's annoying. I wish there was a way to increase my maximum carry weight as well, so that I can transfer more goods from one town to the other if I do trading. Then the main quest currently ends very early and it's kind of short, but again, I know that this will get completed eventually. And missions of 3 skulls and above are unreasonably low in rewards, as I mentioned, for the time it takes to complete, except the ones that are in the overworld. But missions that involve expeditions, that's the ones I'm referring to. And unless one lowers the difficulty, the game is unreasonably hard for casual players, something to think about. To get notified when I upload more content like this one or other builds and guides for Wooter and not so Wooter games, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on notifications. As well as keep in mind there's something called memberships on YouTube, which lets you be a paying member for my channel to get access to perks such as emotes and badges made by me, as well as the option to get one-on-one tutoring for the very basics of Adobe Photoshop, Premiere and After Effects. And memberships can be cancelled at any time if you no longer want to be a member. Thanks for watching all the way until the end. Struck up, keep it cool until next time, and goodbye.